Disclaimer, I've literally never used an engraver in my life, so let's see how we go. So maybe you want the resilience with something a bit more durable than, say, laminated paper for your seed phrase backups, but you also want to be able to have redundancy. So to be able to have multiple copies of it that are stored in a geographically separated way. Or perhaps you've got like a multi-sig setup where you have multiple seeds that you're trying to store. Either way, this stuff can get really expensive really quickly if you're using a lot of the steel-based products in the market. Today I'll be looking at the Crypto Keystack, which is essentially a multi-seed storage device that was sent to me by the nice people at Crypto Keystack. So let's have a look. And if you haven't already done so, hit subscribe, and that way you can stay in the loop for content I make to help you find your way in the crazy and often hostile environment that is cryptocurrency. So here we have the Crypto Keystack. That's exactly what they send you. So let's just have a look and see what comes in the packet. Alright, so that's everything that comes in the box. So we've got some batteries and we'll see if it works with rechargeables. Okay, so you got the batteries in. So we're going to line up this dot keyway in there. So it's a bit fiddly, but you just sort of go in and then twist a little bit and then let go. And if it stays on, you've got it right. Now we just press the button. So basically we just peel this plastic off. We hold the engraver like a pencil and we do it. So I'll just use this. This is my standard seed that I use for demo videos. So let's give that a go. So let's try. And disclaimer, I've literally never used an engraver in my life. So let's see how we go. Try with some different batteries because it's just stopping the second I hit it. And we'll see if the question is whether I'm applying too much pressure or whether these batteries just suck. Alright, safety goggles on, let's go. Nope, still the same. So basically, obviously I'm applying too much downwards pressure. We just want to sort of scrape the paint off. Alright, so I've done the 12 words, and if you had another 12, so a full 24 word seed, you would do that on the back. Sandwich it together like this. Put the little screws that came with it through. And there you go. So there's your Crypto Keystack. And if you want to make it tamper evident, you'll stick these stickers on there just sort of like that and take note of the number. So maybe you'd have one for your mobile phone, maybe you'd have one for your hardware wallet, and maybe you would have another one for, say, some sort of altcoin wallet or something like that. The little screws that come with it will work for if you've just got 3. If you had, say, 6 or 7 different seeds you were trying to store, you would use these longer screws. And frankly, if you thought there was even a small chance you'd be expanding your key stack in the future, I'd be using the long screws. Because the question really you got to ask yourself is, are you more likely to lose these 2 screws, maybe at some point over the next 12 to 24 months, or are you more likely to be annoyed by some little bits that, stick out and don't sit down flush? But the thing is, these stick out anyway, so honestly, I don't feel like that's a huge issue. The obvious advantage with these sort of stamped or engraved metal kind of wallets is that, even if the whole thing gets damaged or bent or something like that, the letter tiles themselves can't fall out. Even after I've hit it with steel wool, you can still make out the inscriptions even on the bit where I did it quite lightly. In terms of general durability, it's also worth pointing out that this isn't just stainless steel with paint on it, but it's actually black anodized stainless steel plates, in that this black finish on there is actually sort of been bonded onto there using an industrial process. That means it's not just going to sort of flake off or melt off or anything like that. And basically, this is why these do really, really well in sort of the crazy extreme tests that Jameson Lopp did a couple of years ago in terms of how they stand up to things like heat and corrosion and all that sort of stuff. So having done that, I think the big thing with these sort of engraving based ones would be, number one, really making sure you do a practice on something. So maybe it's the plates that come with it, just to work out, what level of pressure you need to apply for this to get a good result. Because basically the way I did it on this one wasn't great. I sort of went over the letters too much, applied too much pressure, and it took ages. I had a sore hand, which wasn't great. Whereas, even with the bit of practice I've had doing that one there, if I were to do this one again, actually, knowing how to do it properly, you'll see it's nowhere near as painful and slow. The only other thing I would add is with something like this, I would definitely suggest writing the full word for each one, in the sense that even if you have made some ambiguous letters here just because your writing sucks, having the full word can help you to remove any ambiguity whatsoever in terms of looking at the BIP39 word list, if you have to double check that to work out which word you should have used. So there you go. That was a lot less painful than the first time I did it. And, while the letters aren't nearly as big and thick, they're all plenty legible, especially once you wipe the, dust off. And again, that's all it really needs to be. And because I've done the full word on each one, any ambiguity from my writing being terrible is much easier to resolve. Because again, this little engraver here is not going to eat into the metal at all. You really only need to be sort of lightly applying the engraver onto the surface to just take off the paint, and that's all you need to do. Because I don't know about you, but that was my first attempt, and after having a bit of a play around on the back, this was my second attempt, and that is much better. And the second time around, it even worked fine with my little Aldi rechargeable batteries. So there you go. It was just that I was pressing too hard right at the start. If you've never used an engraver before, this documentation really isn't very good. And there's no substitute for just having a play with it. But again, if you're pressing it down to the point where the whole thing stops, you're pushing way too hard. And if you were to keep that button held down and force it down, the whole thing's just going to burn out. So, because it's extremely simple. It's just a little DC motor in there. So if you've never used an engraver before, definitely just take the time to play around, either on one of the spare plates that came with it. It might seem obvious, but the only other thing to say is that the bonus of this kit is when you're done, you actually still have an engraver. And I actually have engraved a few of these using this, and it's still going. So, not bad at all. Definitely pretty good value as far as I'm concerned. The main challenge with this is really how legibly you can write. So, something like this I think would definitely be just fine for like a BIP39 seed phrase, in that the words that make up your seed phrase are all part of a relatively short list. So you can easily work out if you've got like a letter wrong here or there, whereas I would not actually suggest using this for like a BIP39 passphrase or any other sort of password that doesn't have the rigid structure and rules that a seed phrase has. The other advantage that this has over, say, a standard CryptoSteel style cassette is you could actually, engrave some other context information on both the front and the back plates that would remain inside and private with everything else. So maybe you might include something like, the kinds of derivation paths that you had cryptos stored on. You might include the wallet that you had used, or the cryptos that are associated with that seed. You could also add some sort of note or context about what this seed is for, just in some of the spare space on the crypto key stack. Just to give you some context, it will help you to understand in several years' time, what the seed phrase is actually for, and the kind of information that you might actually need to recover the crypto on it if you've just sort of, stored it somewhere and straight up forgotten about it. Because the reality is it's not a good idea to just assume you will remember which wallet this seed was with. The only thing I'd add with this is that it's actually worth double checking your transcription and going even further and actually doing a dry run recovery with your new copy of the seed that you have made. And I've got videos that run through how to securely do that on both a Ledger, Trezor, and you can do it on any decent hardware wallet. There is definitely something to be said for being able to have a backup for, say, a software wallet on your phone, hardware wallet, and maybe something else on your desktop. So if you've got 2 or 3 different seeds, it's definitely worthwhile to be able to have them all together written down. So there's the crypto key stack. If you've got multiple seeds to back up, it can definitely be a decent option for that, and something that gets cheaper the more backups you add. If you think this would be a useful part of your backup scheme and you want to help me out in the process, I've got an affiliate link in the description, and I really appreciate that if you could support the channel in that way. Frankly, I'm not a fan of the sort of go for one indestructible metal backup kind of approach. I definitely think redundancy is the key, redundancy that is spread across multiple different properties, not just one house. And with that in mind, things like the crypto key tag definitely do what you need to do. The addition of things like a BIP39 passphrase means that you can have multiple copies of your seed spread around the place, and even if someone gets their hand on it, it's actually not enough for them to gain access to your crypto. Thanks for watching, I hope that was helpful. Hit like if you think that other people would find this video useful, and hit subscribe if you'd like to be kept in the loop about future content I make that helps people stay safe in the crypto space and to recover if they get into trouble. If you have any questions about this video or a topic that you'd like me to cover, just leave a reply.